Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Margaux Morisseau. I am the Deputy Director of the Rhode Island Coalition to End Homelessness, and I want to welcome you all here today and thank you for joining us for this very important information sharing event. We want to especially thank the team that has made this possible, who have worked so hard to do the outreach and gather this data. So we want to recognize the HMIS team led by Jen Barrera. And if you guys could just give her a wave so people know who you are. Maria. And Jen. And outreach that was really incredibly led by Alex. I also want to thank the folks that are not here with us today that worked very hard from our team, Taka Morgan, Christina Kopek, and Rebecca Rathball. So we also want to thank our partners who made this possible. Our partners are the boots on the ground. They're the ones working hard every day doing the very difficult work. We want to recognize that the contributions that they've made to this point in time counts. And we're going to kind of go through a quicker run of show. We know that the agenda is kind of large, so just to dive right into it, I'm going to introduce Emily Freedman. Emily is the Vice Chair of the Rhode Island Continuum of Care. The Continuum of Care, also known as the COC, plays an important role in the system, and we are grateful for her leadership. Emily will highlight the work of the COC and talk about why the point in time count is so important.
Good afternoon. Since 1994, the Rhode Island Continuum of Care, the COC, has been committed to making homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring within our state. The Rhode Island COC continues to focus on securing permanent housing resources necessary to accommodate those experiencing homelessness within Rhode Island and the prevention of additional individuals and families in Rhode Island communities from finding themselves unhoused. The COC does this by housing people experiencing homelessness as quickly as possible without preconditions and coupling those housing interventions with robust supports and services to maintain that housing. Since 2015, the COC has succeeded at increasing the Continuum's funding portfolio from $5 million approximately in projects to over $12 million annually. While we're proud of our progress in the funding of our system, we know there is so much more to do. As you'll hear today, the number of people experiencing homelessness continues to increase in Rhode Island. The Continuum is therefore committed to continuing to utilize its resources to support our communities and deliver supportive housing throughout Rhode Island. We're also committed to addressing this through community-wide planning, policymaking, and strategic use of our system's resources. To aid in these efforts, the COC conducts the Point in Time Count, or PIT, every January to count the number of households experiencing homelessness in Rhode Island, including those households living unsheltered and in emergency shelters. This count helps HUD to gauge the dimensions of homelessness in each jurisdiction and helps policymakers, program administrators, and communities to track progress towards the collective goal of ending homelessness in our state and nationally. Though the COC and its providers' efforts make a significant impact, additional supportive housing will be critical to addressing homelessness in our state. As you'll hear, this year's PIT count underscores that we need increased funding for permanent supportive housing, increased development of deeply affordable housing, and an expansion of other essential parts of the homelessness response system. We emphasize as a continuum that it is important to focus not only on immediate shelter for individuals and families in crisis, but that we must also set them up for long-term success by funding the supportive housing opportunities that will resolve their homelessness. And of course, the Continuum's work would not be possible without support from the local and state level. The Continuum is tremendously grateful for the work of the Coalition, Caitlin and her team, organizations like House of Hope, and for the attention and efforts of leaders like Secretary Pryor and the advocates here today. So thank you.
Next, I'm going to introduce Caitlin Frumerie, our Executive Director. She has been our fearless leader for 5.5 years, and she has grown the organization through the most turbulent time in our history to ensure that we are helping as many people as possible. Caitlin is going to dive into the data and highlight the key takeaways from our findings.
And I just want to acknowledge and again appreciate everybody that's in this room today, all of the service providers and particularly the point-in-time count leads that really contributed to making this happen. We could not do this work without you, and it is also just extremely challenging work. You guys can see by the slides that you have in front of you, our total number of people experiencing homelessness on the evening of January 25th of 2023 was 1,810 Rhode Islanders. I'm going to say that again. 1,810 Rhode Islanders were experiencing homelessness in the state of Rhode Island in our current world paradigm, right? Where we have so much resources, we have so much potential, and yet we have Rhode Islanders that continue to need to live in shelter or outdoors. Last year, the number was approximately 1,500. So what we're looking at today is an increase and a significant increase. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about where and how we're seeing that, but I think we would be remiss if we just didn't take a moment to honor the fact that there are that many people in our community that are struggling. One of the blessings of the point-in-time count, if there is such a thing as a blessing in a count of people who don't have a home, is that we know that it's fairly accurate. Not 100% there, because there may be some people that are outside that we can't locate for whatever reason, but we have a team of dedicated volunteers and service providers that are trying to canvass every part of the state, in addition to understanding kind of who's in which shelter or which facility based on our data. So we have some certainty that this is the number. It's probably an undercount, but it's a true number, and it is a true crisis that we are reckoning with day in, day out. And it's a crisis that's worsening. So when we break down that 1,800 number, roughly, we have about 1,200 that are adult individuals that may be residing in a couple, they may be single, they may be an adult-only family, but we also have close to 600 persons that reside in a family. And that means that children, babies, preteens, teens, children are experiencing homelessness. It's not just what you might think of, kind of a single adult that experiences it. We also see 81 kind of transition-aged youth that may be between the ages of 18 and 15 that are experiencing homelessness. And that also very likely is an undercount, as we know many youth are wary of institutions and engaging with systems that may have hurt them in the past. We also see 100 veterans, individuals who have served our country bravely that find themselves without a place to stay, as well as over 629 Rhode Islanders that are experiencing chronic homelessness, which is experiencing a homelessness that's typically longer than a year, whether that's been continuous or over a period of time in the last couple of years. So they're just significant numbers that continue to increase. And what you can see in future slides in the materials you have in front of you is an overall trend line that for the most part is increasing. So we have seen overall count of homelessness increase 15% since last year. And we're seeing really every kind of population within that increasing, with the exception of those residing in transitional housing. So that was kind of went down a little bit last year, is up again this year. And that's really more to the presence of transitional housing programs. That's not necessarily speaking to there being vacancies. So for the most part, our emergency shelter system is full and there is a wait to enter it. And that's why you see unsheltered homelessness, because the resources don't match the need. And I'm incredibly grateful, and we'll hear later from Secretary Pryor, at the work that's been done to bring that capacity to bear so that we have more housing, more shelter, but I think we all agree that there's work to be done. And I think the number that hits the hardest is when we think about our unsheltered homelessness. And I can remember I've been doing this work probably about 14 years, and our unsheltered number for the point-in-time count might be 50 people, 70 people, 80 people. It's 333. It has increased 370% since 2019. And this isn't an isolated incident to Rhode Island. Unfortunately, it's something that we're seeing across the country. The pandemic has certainly had an impact on both housing costs and wages, and they just continue to not meet, and what that results in is more people facing homelessness and not able to afford a place to stay. I'm going to pivot a little bit now to talking about where homelessness happens, and it really happens in every corner of our state. This isn't just an urban problem. This is a problem that may look different in different parts of our state, but is something we certainly see everywhere. So there's a visualization in your packet that shows a heat map, and what you'll see is the density certainly of unsheltered homelessness and, Providence, Pawtucket, Central Falls, Woonsocket, we would kind of expect that based on, maybe the homelessness that we can kind of see when we drive through a community. But certainly homelessness, particularly unsheltered homelessness, is hidden. You go out to some of the rural parts of our community, you will find people residing in forests, in state parks, on maybe property that is kept by someone that isn't kind of monitored as much, and they're able to kind of stay out of notice. And, if you are without a place to stay, not being visible gives you a layer of protection that's very important. So this problem is just very nuanced, it's very complicated, and it really does hit every part of our community, not just our urban cores. And when we have a problem that addresses all of our state, it also requires collaboration and solutions that cover the whole state and not just one or two communities. And now I want to pivot to talk a little bit more about what the solution is. So ultimately, the way that we end homelessness is more housing. If people have a place to stay, if they can afford where to stay, homelessness really does go away. So we need more housing, and certainly until that housing is available, having safe places for people to stay, shelter, warming centers, whatever that looks like, whatever people are telling us they need to bridge that is important. But the challenge that we see is even in Rhode Island, where we have such wonderful resources that the Continuum of Care has brought to bear, such as Rapid for Housing, which is a short-term rental assistance that usually comes with services operated by wonderful providers that sit in this room. They will tell you, and I think any constituent or client would tell you too, there just isn't the units there to be able to move someone into housing. So they've got the money, they've got the service, they've got that support, but there isn't the apartment for them to move into. So even when there is a subsidy being provided, it's very challenging to find a unit. And so the last two slides that are in the packet that you have are really starting to touch on that. So what are the numbers of people who have some sort of assistance, and this is just one type of assistance that exists within a toolbox of resources that a community is offering, but I think it helps highlight the need. The other piece I would be remiss to not share is homelessness is also preventable and it's avoidable. So there are resources and programs, housing problem solving, that are operated by organizations like Crossroads that can divert and prevent homelessness, but the resources, the support needs to be there to make those things happen. And so scaling to match the need is very important. So really, just as homelessness is complicated, the solutions really need to be collaborative and multifaceted to make it work. And at the end of the day, as I started with, housing is the solution, and we can do it. The 1,800 number, I cried when I heard it. It was just such a large number from last year. But if we think about other communities, our peers, for instance, in even Boston or California, there's this feeling of thousands and thousands and thousands of people experiencing homelessness on their point in time count, and that can feel insurmountable. Where in Rhode Island, 1,800 is a travesty, but it's solvable, it's doable. We have the capacity, we have the talent, we have the leadership in the state to make it happen, but we just need to work together and have that will to get it there, because it is a number that we can solve. We're not talking 20,000 people. We're talking a number that can actually be achieved in our state. And that's why I'm so grateful to hear from some of the other speakers today that can touch on what some of those solutions are, and also the work that we're all doing together, because that's the way that we do this, is through partnership.
Okay. Next, I'm going to be introducing Secretary Pryor. During his short time as Housing Secretary, he has made so much progress in our field, from standing up new shelters to working hard to ensure funding is allocated and distributed. We're thankful to have you as a partner. We are grateful that you're here to join us today.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Caitlin, Margaux, and Coalition team for setting up this session today and for the data that you've provided. I think this is a very important forum. I think it's so critical that we all come together. Caitlin just expressed this. This problem is enormously challenging, but the scale of it is addressable if we come together, if we all take responsibility, and if we take steps forward together. And that's the key message. I know we can rally to do better. I know we can help our unsheltered brothers and sisters find roofs above their heads and the supportive services that they need. I know we can do it. We tackle big problems as a state. We know that because of our relatively small size as a state, we have the ability to come together, to break down silos, to break through barriers. And I know we can do it. I want to, early in my remarks, express thanks to the brand new housing team that is aiming to make strides with all of your help, only in partnership with you. I want to recognize Mary Rose and Hannah and Kat and others who are not in the room for really starting a new process, building upon so many strengths and so many building blocks, but a new process to make new progress. It's so essential. Because of your advocacy, all of you all in this room, up here at the front, Karen Santilli, other key providers, Laura and Sarah from House of Hope, because of all of your advocacy, we have made housing and homelessness a top of the list issue. Credit to you. It is among this issue, is among the headlines on a routine basis. The level of the challenge, though enormously unfortunate, that we have these increases in homelessness in our state, the level of the challenge has brought forward a mandate that we do more. So we need to use that mandate. We need to use the momentum. We have to give thanks to our elected leaders that they are seizing the opportunity, albeit because of these challenges. They're seizing the opportunity, and I want to thank the governor, the speaker, and the Senate president for seeing it plainly and for putting the resources on the table. The governor introduced a budget, then introduced a budget amendment that includes new resources for homelessness. $30 million for homelessness infrastructure in that budget. $13 million for homelessness assistance programming. Additional money for host communities, helping us expand shelters, centers, and services so that we can work more closely with towns to get the job done. And it's fantastic that, with great thanks to Speaker Shekarshi, the House Finance budget introduced just last Friday includes those dollars and even a little bit more. And they invest greatly in housing, embracing the governor's proposal, his budget amendment, and much more, including a priority projects fund that has grown from $17 million to $27 million for the most vulnerable communities, i.e. communities that are most frequently at risk of homelessness. Permanent housing solutions with big dollars attached to move those solutions. These are important steps forward. Is it enough? It is not enough. Every one of these elected leaders, and certainly I will tell you, it's not enough. It's a strong start. It's in the right direction, to be sure. If we're going to remedy a 15% increase in year-to-year homelessness overall and a 35% increase in unsheltered homelessness year-to-year, we need to take these steps. We need to undertake the emergency solutions, shelters, seasonal centers, problem solving, addressing the opioid crisis, addressing behavioral health issues, and more. We need to do these things on an emergency basis, en route to building permanent supportive housing, and overall building sufficient housing for Rhode Islanders. We must do these things, but ladies and gentlemen, thanks to your dedication, we truly are taking these steps forward. Now, I want to speak a little bit more to who us needs to be. I want to give it one more time credit to the advocates in this room and the providers in this room and the builders in this room. You all are getting it done. It requires your continued commitment and, dare I say, I feel I must say, increased commitment, even though it's hard, because you all know best what the solutions are. We need to do more. It also requires government officials, private property owners, civic organizations, philanthropies, foundations to step up. More, all of us, because if on the government front, if even a portion of us step away or step down our efforts, cities and towns, for example, if, because there's a new housing department, cities and towns relax a bit or simply defer to others, then funding commitments can go down in a way that we cannot make up for, and we will lose ground. But there are so many dedicated mayors and town managers and other officials who want to step up. So thankfully, we hope and expect to go in the right direction. If philanthropies don't step up and serve our service providers and our civic groups, all the more we won't make the progress we need to close the gaps that these data reveal. We owe it to our unsheltered fellow Rhode Islanders. We can do better. We are of the scale where we can do better. We are of the dedication and passion where we can do better. We must achieve it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Secretary Pryor. So next I have the pleasure of introducing Laura Jaworski. Laura is the Executive Director of House of Hope. Laura inspires us all by speaking truth to power. Her innovative approach to addressing the housing and homelessness crisis have changed many lives for the better, and we are grateful to her leadership and collaboration. I also have to give a special shout out to Sarah Malucci, who's also here from House of Hope, because Sarah is everywhere she's needed to be, and I don't know how she does it all. But wanting to invite Laura up here, Laura is going to give us sort of her reaction to the data and the experiences of needs that she's witnessing out in the community.
Thank you, Margaux. My name is Laura Jaworski, and I have the honor of serving as the Executive Director for House of Hope CDC. House of Hope CDC is a nonprofit affordable housing developer and housing services provider here in the state of Rhode Island. House of Hope believes that housing is a basic human right. Everything that we do in every single nook and cranny of our organization is in service of this core tenet of our mission. As Margaux said, I was asked today to speak to share my reaction to the data collected from this year's point in time count. I imagine I was also asked in large part due to the street-based outreach work that is done at House of Hope on a day-to-day basis. You all know me well enough to know that I don't pull any punches, and I lead with vulnerability and honesty. So angry is the only emotion that I have to share today as a reaction to today's data. I'm so angry about what feels like tremendous tons of energy and effort. Things feel like they are not improving. We have the facts and the data to back that feeling up. And that's validating. And it's only getting worse. I was also asked to share what the outreach worker experience has been like. Trust me, they were far more eloquent than I was, but they pinpoint the exact emotions and experiences that they are facing on a day-to-day basis, and it's a really important voice that I want to uplift today. So bear with me, I'm going to read exactly what they shared. Desolate, hopeless, distressing, painful, unpredictable, heartbreaking, inadequate, questioning if we're doing enough and doing more with less, horrified, scared, frustrated that the acuity of the need doesn't seem to be acknowledged at all by our system and our leaders, and that quite frankly it's easier to refer someone to a campsite than it is to any other resource in the state. This is the landscape that our outreach team is stepping into each and every day, and this is the landscape that we're in when we're trying to engage with people, build trust, offer resources, guidance, and hope. Every day, our team and many others are having to make impossible decisions about where to prioritize time and effort, when the reality is that we are aware of and bearing witness to far more crises than we're able to meaningfully manage and involve ourselves in. And that is a grave moral injury. We also know, as we've also heard today, that there are plenty of solutions out there that we need to do, either more of or create in our state. Housing problem solving is one of those critical resources that unhoused folks need to be able to assist their households with flexible funding to meet the needs that they state that they need, because they know the best solutions to meet them. We need more temporary emergency shelter. We hate the fact that we have to advocate for more shelter in a state that is committed to building more housing, but we simply don't have enough of that, and we need a safe, dignified space for people to be until we can create the housing that our leaders have so generously flagged in this year's budget and in moving forward, but we need a bridge to get there. And of course, we can't forget the workforce that has been doing this work each and every day. They are the folks that we need to remember doing this work, that are on the front lines, having to deliver difficult messages that often come with empty hands and no resources. And we cannot forget them in this fight. In closing, my hope is that we see that these numbers are not just numbers, but that there are also people behind them. That we start to take real steps and create real solutions that can meet not only people's basic needs for safe, adequate shelter, but affordable housing. That we all do this in a dignified way that is thoughtful and engaging with the people that are not only doing this work, but most importantly in all of it, that those who are unhoused themselves are listened to, actually heard, and engaged toward the solutions that best meet their needs for safe, adequate shelter and housing. Thank you.
Laura, thank you. So now I'd like to introduce Diamond. Diamond is a force in the housing and homelessness advocacy world. By sharing her experience, she has changed many hearts and minds. We appreciate her courage and her continuous work to ensure that the homeless crisis is addressed in a respectful and meaningful way. Proud to hear Diamond's story and know her as a person and all the amazing work she does, and I'm so grateful she's here with us today. So Diamond, thank you.
Sorry, this is my second open thing I've done since last Wednesday, since I've lost 3 people that were homeless in the street, that had no housing, that all they wanted was to be housed. I couldn't house them. I had to tell these people, I'm sorry, there's no housing. My story is simple. I was born to an addictive mother at 13 years old. I've been in the system all my life. I've raised myself since 10. I made a lot of bad decisions. But the one good decision I made was, I will stand up and fight. When I got myself clean, I got off the streets. I've been housed for 7 years now, 8 years now maybe, with a voucher. That it's like the, I have the name in my head, the, Willy Wonka, with the golden ticket.
Housing choice voucher?
That's what these are. They're Willy Wonka vouchers. They change so much of your life. I went from the bottom to where I'm at today. I'm proud of where I stand today. I'm a force like Laura. Like I said, how do I follow you? Because we work so much. I mean, Sarah, you know I love you. There's so many people that have watched me grow, that I've worked with here. And it's sad that we're still at the same place. It's simple, Senator. It's like you said, we need housing. We also need wrap-around services. Let's be honest. If you take someone that's been outside for 7 years, that they don't remember anything anymore, and you give them a Willy Wonka voucher, and you say, here's your apartment. A, they probably forgot how to use a stove because we have to fend for ourselves when we're out there. B, you gotta have to take a shower again, you gotta come out and clean your house again. Housing's good. Wraparound service is better. Because that way, when you give somebody a voucher, they can stay in it. We don't have to give them a voucher and 30 days later because they messed up something because they didn't understand. We have to tell you, I'm sorry, but you have to leave your voucher. I've been in my apartment now 6 years. I just got blessed last week with a brand new apartment. I haven't told my landlord yet because that apartment for me was my start. And a person like I am, I've come from the bottom. I want to give that apartment to somebody that equally deserves an apartment. And there's so many of us out here that deserve. You walk on any street side right now, you'll see somebody with a sign. Because they have nowhere to go. All the shelters are full. It's just unbearable. I mean, I'm at Madsen Street Church every Sunday morning. We feed about 350 people. That's breakfast alone. After that, I do 5 to 10 pounds of food a week for these people. Because food is a necessity. But food to your soul that's warm, that sticks to you, and you have somebody giving that to you that's been where you've been at, that's a huge plus. Because I know where they've been, and I'm able to give you a meal. I'm able to give you services. I can't tell you that I got a voucher for you, but I can tell you to keep trying. I don't want to keep telling nobody to keep trying. Everybody deserves a home. And then when they tell you that, oh, it's not in your backyard, well, it is in your backyard. I've been housed 7 years. None of my neighbors know, unless they watch the news, that I came from being on these streets to nothing. It is in your backyard. And it seems like if you work in the State House and it's not one of your family members or immediately necessary to you, it's not important. I'm going down fighting with this ship. It doesn't matter where you're at. Everybody needs a little bit of help now and then. It's okay to give somebody help. It's okay to say hello to somebody. It's okay to say, are you okay today? You know, those little words right there, they save a lot of people's life. You know, people are asking me since Wednesday, am I okay? And the words I give them right now are, I'm numb. I lost 3 people close to me. I'm numb. Between housing and this drug situation going on, I'm numb because I can't stop something. I'm out here fighting on a daily basis with health conditions because I don't want to see anybody die alone. I want to see people get to the level that I'm at. Some people can do it, some people can't. But guess what? For the ones that can't speak, they say you got to show up and show out. That's why when I walked in today, I asked them, am I on a leash or am I not on a leash? They said I'm semi on a leash. Because I care. Because I've been where these people have been at. I still, after being housed for so long, I still get scared in my house. Thinking my landlord's going to kick me out. I have an emotional support dog. My landlord's telling me to get rid of my dog or get out of my house. This dog keeps me sane. I have no psychiatrist. I'm looking for one now. What do you want me to do? Like, there's no housing. I have a voucher. I got lucky to get this new apartment. Think of the ones that have the voucher. You can't find an apartment. You only get maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 extensions. You don't get your extensions after that, you can't find nothing, they lose your voucher. It's not their fault. It has to be more. We're the smallest state in all the 50-something states we are, and we all can't get our brains together to figure out how to solve a problem. Like, mathematics is simple. 1 and 1 is 2, right? So this is housing. Yes, I know it's complicated. I know there's situations that go behind that, but guess what? If I'm still fighting this and I'm not homeless anymore, there's a problem to me. I did 2 decades on the street because of my behavior, because of what I chose to be. I changed. I got where I'm at now. But you have people that want to change, want a good life, want something different, and because we have no apartments, or because people like Laura's team, they're on these streets in boots every day like me. They're doing the best they can to help these people. And we have nothing but to say, but I'm sorry, you have to wait. How about being in our shoes and have to tell somebody that you've been doing case management for 6 months and you still have to wait longer because something didn't work out right? We get tired. We don't want to deal with anybody after a while because we feel like we put our trust into you, and because it's a hard system to navigate through, you have to wait longer. Then they don't want to help. I can attest to that because I was that person that didn't want it. I've watched Sarah. Megan's not here. I've watched them go to Sarah, Megan, Laura. Why can't I get housing? You know what that does to them at night? Can you guys imagine what we go through at night? We can't help you. You have to sit here again. But then you wake up the next morning, you have to go identify somebody's body because we didn't have a house for them. This is trauma. We deal with trauma being homeless on a day-to-day basis. Between getting robbed, beat up, raped, murdered, killed. This is what we go through more in the streets. So if ever there's a time to listen to anybody, please, now is the time. Listen to what I'm saying. I don't make any of this up. I tell everybody when I speak, come on Broad Street, come on to Kennedy Plaza. Not even that, come to Madsen Street Church every Sunday morning and watch what we have to go through. I'm sending people in hospitals. I'm sending people here, I'm sending people there. I'm tired of sending them there. I want to send you to a home. Talk about homes are essential. They are. They change people. If ever in your life you had to think about a story that you listen to mine. I've lived it. Everybody in this room knows who I am. I've run the gamut with everybody, between good, bad, excellent. I've done it. But today it's different. You know, I'll be 55 in December. I can't lose my apartment. I would die because of health conditions on the street. But yet I'm scared to death because when I got housed, I didn't get wraparound services. They came and saw my apartment and said, oh, look how clean your house is. You figured out everything. You got all this by yourself and you left me out there to fend for myself. I sank, I swam, but I'm above water. But I have a good core that's around me now that even if I don't work with you for like 6 months or don't see you, I know I can pick up the phone and say, hey, I have this problem, but I don't know how to figure it out. Guess what? Somebody's on the other end to help me. And that's what wraparound services mean. Doesn't have to be for a day. You could have them for 6 months. They're done. But if you go through something else, a problem, guess what? These people are here to help. I'm here to help. If anything, please, like the senator said, help us get this bill off the ground. Help us get more housing. Yes, shelters are not the best, but what do we have to offer? You have a shelter and a jail cell. Which one do you want? Or a park? I'm taking a park. I'll get arrested for that, 'cause at least I know that I'm by myself, I'm safe. I'm in a shelter and everything happens. I'm here, everything happens. We're warehousing these people. They're getting older. These people in the shelters are old enough to be my parents. There's no reason for them to be in a shelter. They deserve to have something as dignity. The vets deserve it. They fought for our country. They deserve that. My brother was a vet. My brother got killed last year on the road working with drunk driving. I was a cop in Tampa. Everything I do is now for my brother, is now to bring awareness to everything that's going on. Like, we want to always hide behind little things and it's not really that serious a problem. I'm so sorry. Bullshit. Bullshit. It's not a problem. It's not a crisis. It's a pandemic now. They're getting younger and younger out here. And they're getting worse and worse. I think they're happening bad. We need to be here for these people now. Winter is coming. We're in June right now, right? So my winter season starts August, September. I have maybe 3 months left to find out where to house people at. It's not easy. But if you guys just listen, and everybody finally gets along and plays nice, it's not who gets more money, it's not who gets more people this. We have to get together. Just, at the end of the day, think about what I said. Think about me. Because I was there. But now I'm here. Am I going to be a senator like you? Ain't no way in hell. They put my ass up out of here. I'm going to tell you the truth.
You do very well.
But I can do this. Because I'm the person that was them. I'm not them anymore. I feel like it every day because I don't know what's going to happen to me. I don't know if I'm going to keep my apartment. I don't know if, because I'm not getting rid of my dog right now, are you going to evict me because of it? That's scary. If I lose my dog, that's my support system right there. You shouldn't have to make a choice about stuff like that. Anything that makes you happy and keeps you safe, you should be able to have it today. And with that, remember a lot of us that are here doing this work. The numbers are wrong. There's more, but at least we have a base start. Now we have to figure out what to do with that. I say thank you.
Thank you, Diamonds. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. One of the ways that we can address this crisis is through proper funding, which we've talked about, and ironically, the House is meeting right now in a finance meeting to talk about the budget and the funding. So none of our state reps could join us today. But we're also talking about legislation, and at the end of this legislative season, there's still so much work to do. And as many of you know, we've created a platform this year that focuses on creating more affordable housing and removing barriers to accessing housing, to protect people who are experiencing homelessness, to help keep people safely housed, and to prevent unjust practices that lead to homelessness. This platform was put together by service providers, constituents, volunteers, people who care. You can visit our website to see the bills that we've been working on this year. And we want to appreciate Speaker Shekarchi's focus on housing, and we want to recognize the representatives and senators who have championed our bills this year. Rep. Speakman, Senator Mack, Rep. Morales, Rep. Cruz, Senator Murray, Senator Coleman, Rep. Tanzi, Rep. Alzate, Rep. Stewart, and Senator Quezada. We appreciate everyone's efforts. We know that we have a lot of work to do, that we have to keep on going, but we hope to celebrate some wins with you all in a few weeks, and hopefully we will be in a better place by next fall. We're going to now move to question and answer. If anybody has any questions, Caitlin is here to answer them, and I can walk around with a mic.
I'm also happy to talk one-on-one too if people would rather get it on camera.
Olivia Eberts from the Public's Radio. I'm just curious, why it took so long to release the data?
That is a really good question. So there's a lot that actually goes into collecting and analyzing the data. We're actually running several counts at once. So we both have the tremendous street outreach leads that are actually going out and collecting the data and putting into a system. We're also then collecting data from the database for the homeless service providers, in addition to collecting data from the domestic violence providers who were in a separate database. So it's almost like 3 different counts, and then if you think about each of the street outreach leads covering different areas, we have to collect it all, and then we have to basically deduplicate it and do a great deal of quality assurance to make sure the data is accurate. So while the count is really happening the end of January, by the time we're really getting the data coming in from all of the sources, that takes a bit of time, and then it needs to be analyzed. There's also a process where we submit it to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for review and feedback, which also adds in kind of layers of reporting. And what the point in time count happens is it's a national count that all communities participate in, and it actually goes into a report to Congress, which those of you that have a media kit will have that in there.
I'm Kevin Andrade of the Rhode Island Coalition, and this goes for any of the speakers. So we saw forget which number it was, but there was an over 300% increase in overall homelessness over the last 5 years, I believe. And we went over some of the budget items that are hopefully going to resolve the issue, well, not necessarily resolve the issue, but work towards resolving the issue in the coming year. Is there any sense from you on the likelihood of those numbers going down next year?
So I think I'm going to give a slightly nuanced answer, and then I'm curious if anybody else would share anything. You've got a number of different factors, right? So you have a system where you have people both coming in the front door and exiting out the back door. So for the overall number to go down, we need one of those to go down, or ideally both. Well, we want, the number exiting to go up, the number coming in down, so slightly transverse there. So certainly if we're working to prevent and end homelessness, you'll see less people coming into the homeless system. But if we're also not quickly exiting people into housing out of the system can get jammed up. My sense would be that we're probably going to continue to see increases. I hope that we don't, and we're working hard to make that happen. But there are also factors in terms of the economy. We don't know what's happening with any number of things on even just the federal level in terms of government funding and other things. So those all impact people. So how many people can be hired, education, school, like any number of things contribute to homelessness. We've heard the opiate epidemic as, a contributor. We have people aging out of foster care. So my guess would be that we probably will hopefully start to see maybe a leveling out, but I think nationally the trend we're seeing is an increase, particularly if housing costs continue to accelerate the way that they are.
I have a quick question.
And I don't know if anybody else would. I would love to be back here and say it's down.
Right.
We can work towards that.
I have a question that might be best for the secretary, if you want. Last year, there was the administration expressed doubt in the numbers that we had, and I was wondering if you're confident in numbers that are being presented and if you think they accurately reflect the nature of the problem out there.
I'll say this, we're receiving the numbers, so we're analyzing them. But I will say this, even before I started in this job, I participated in the point in time count as an individual. So did Assistant Secretary Hannah Moore. We went out and joined some marvelous outreach workers in conducting the work. And I know that there's been a great effort to reach unsheltered individuals right here in Rhode Island. We're analyzing the numbers, and it is a point in time. So it's important to note that even since the pit count occurred, we've opened new shelters. We've opened new shelters in Woonsocket and in Warwick and in North Smithfield and in Providence. The armory's come down. So it's a fluid situation. Having said that, do any of us doubt that there's a significant problem in terms of homelessness and a significant problem as to housing? No, we don't doubt it. And the real challenge that we ought to be aiming at today is ensuring that the resources that thankfully are being proposed by the governor, the speaker, and the Senate president that came out in the House Finance package, that they pass. We can't count on it happening. We need to move it all the way through the process and pass these dollars and make sure that we deploy them. We need to work together to actually create these new opportunities. That's what matters today. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question for you and a question for Diamond. You mentioned that homelessness has gone up by about 370% overall, but do you have that statistic for chronic homelessness over the past 5 years?
So you're wanting to know the number for chronic homelessness? I can get that for you.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I'm looking at my data team there. Somebody taking that note? Yeah.
And then Diamond, I'm just curious how long you had a voucher before you were able to use it, and if you have any anecdotes about how long people you know who have vouchers but don't have homes yet are sort of waiting.
I actually when I got my voucher, I was homeless. I was staying at Crossroads when I got my voucher. It was a program that I was involved in through your Coalition for the Homeless with Jim Reisnick and Karen that were there. And I got my voucher. I had to wait maybe a month to use it. That's still not a good number, but now it's even longer now because you don't have apartments. Like, I'm so scared. I have a 30-day thing to leave my apartment right now, and I'm actually trying to find a home, I don't even say homeless anymore, unsheltered person with a Section 8 voucher that could take over a 1-bedroom. I would rather give that to them than give that to anybody else that deserves it, because these people struggle to get their voucher. And I mean, I'm calling agencies like, hey, who's got someone that, because basically, I'm gonna be honest, if you live in Pawtucket and you get a 1-bedroom voucher, it's $1,200 something. I moved back to Providence, it's $1,500 something. So it's a different price range for different cities you live in. And if you don't know the cities, you have to search and find people like Laura or Sarah that's out here in the street that can actually give you the numbers that are there. So it takes a little longer when you're not from there, but it still shouldn't be the 2 times you can't find nothing, you take your voucher when you know there's nothing out here. I got lucky. I had a landlord that has apartments and got it. People aren't like lucky no more. And it's scary because you worked so hard to get somewhere to watch it fall down to your feet again. So that's why people are the way they are, to ask for help now.
Everybody's going to call you now, Diamond.
I know, they love me.
Got a unit. It's gold.
Okay, I think that wraps up our press conference. Thank you all for joining. I want to give a shout out to Senator Quezada, who was able to join us. Thank you so much for stepping in.
Thank you.
And we'll stay around if anybody
we'll
has
be
any
available.
questions. We're happy to keep on talking, but thank you all for joining us today.